Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friday Happy Talk. Hope you're doing well. So, today's talk is about the awakening process and the new paradigm of your life. When we look at what's happening through an awakening process, you can see how there are many different stages going on, where it starts as a knowing, right? As a mind knowing. When you first live your life, and you may or may not have an inkling that there are more levels to reality. Most of us have that inkling, of course, but and especially when you're watching these videos. But not everybody, right? Some people are more like, oh, well, this is all there is. I'm doing my work, I'm doing my 8 to 4 job, and that's it. And that's what life is all about, going on vacations and being off on the weekends, and that's it. And what happens in the awakening process is that we run into different forms of trouble, right? So we end up having to face our shadow. We call it the dark night of the soul. And of course, there are many layers, many levels to your dark night of the soul. But the original one, where we are first being called into awakening, would come usually from a state of where you are we come from a regular day-to-day life, and suddenly something happens. It could be as simple as a car breaking down, but it could be as difficult as somebody passing away. And this calling, it begins to kind of move you in a direction. First, you feel lost, right? At first, it's completely natural to feel lost because your old paradigm, your old walls of your understanding are being shaken up. We're being shaken up into what we thought was reality, what we thought was the way the world worked. Almost like if you always watch the news and you are convinced that what they are telling you is the truth, if you see something that contradicts that, then you end up being like, oh, wait a second, are they not always truthful? And then suddenly the realm, or the walls that you have lived within, or the realm that you're in, the dimension you're in, begins to shake. And as we start looking around, we may start seeing signs that there are deeper truths available all the time. That what we see on the news may not always be the complete, utter whole picture. Usually there is a narrative involved, and usually there is a desire for a specific outcome, or we could call it propaganda. Anyway, so when this worldview you've had, or if you're in a relationship, like I've been in a few relationships where I felt like this is it. This is it. We're riding into the sunset together, me and this person. This is it. We're going to grow old together, and that's it. And when you lose that person, when I lost my different girlfriends over the years, I ended up having to have an awakening, because my original thought process, now, finally I have found my partner, went into, oh, I lost that partner too. And then that shakes up both how you feel about how I felt about myself, and also it shakes up our view of what reality is supposed to look like. So the first step in this awakening process is just kind of a knock on the door. There's a tapping, there's a rapping at the door. And this tapping on the door is sort of like a spirit is knocking you on the head, saying, hey, you can wake up now. And if we're lucky, we start to wake up then. But on the other hand, if we don't, if we keep going, and maybe we think, well, I'll just need to find another girlfriend, or I just need to find another job, or I just need to recreate something. If we keep the same paradigm alive, we haven't gone into the shift, right? We haven't gone into starting to open up our mind, starting to soften our ego. We have come back into a space of, well, I'm just going to rebuild myself again. And there's nothing wrong in rebuilding, right? Not in itself. But when we come from the same paradigm that we were just in, then we're going to have the same results. So we start to have an awakening. And the knocking on the door, you heard it. And you start maybe reading books. Maybe you start listening to different speakers. Maybe you start listening to different podcasts, either about awakening or about manifesting. It's very popular right now. The manifestation, the manifesting of your life, the manifesting of our dreams. So popular right now. And of course, it's beautiful on some levels and it brings a lot of power back to us. But there are also levels of spirituality that are kind of lacking in that field, where the conviction is that if I can just create my life, I'll be happy, and that's it. That's how life works. If I can manifest whatever I want, and that's how life works. Well, that's a new paradigm, and it's very much based in wants, desires, and ego. So not that that's not necessarily wrong, right? But we're not seeking any higher values. We're not seeking any deeper truths. We're just seeking more money, basically. And on that level, the manifestation movement have some more things to wish for, has some more things to look for. So when we are looking into this awakening process, you first start to get the idea. Here's an idea that, I need to look at what's going on here. But at first, when you start looking like that, right, your mind, we are now starting to get a new grasp of an understanding. We're starting to understand that, so there's a whole world I have not explored yet. When I went to school as a kid, they didn't teach us what was outside of the box. Maybe you read, I studied a little bit of theology when I was little, and I thought it was wonderful. But they only taught us about the 5 big world religions, and they didn't teach you about a spiritual awakening. They didn't teach you about what it could feel like. Of course, they didn't know. But so as we have this idea of an awakening, you are now starting your process, right? And you start the process of awakening, and you might start to meditate. You go to sound baths, you go to different healing modalities, and you find ways to begin to feel better. But you might still be doing your old things. You might still be living the way you did before, which there's no judgment here. There's only kind of more of a reporting of, if you live the way you did before and you aren't willing to change any of the actions, if you drink a lot of alcohol every day, you may want to look at changing that if you're going to have either a spiritual awakening or a healthier lifestyle. And if you don't want to look at that, more power to you, right? But a lot of things work against an awakening. That is one of them. So as we start to go down this road of awakening, we start to have the idea. We start reading books, but we still can't feel what it feels like to be awakened, to be enlightened, to have this peace in your heart. We can't feel it. Because of course, this is a process. On many levels, it's a lifelong process, but even the beginning stages are kind of slow when you look at from a certain perspective. So, but it feels big, of course, right? Every time we have a new epiphany or a new idea, go boom, oh my God. So as you start to anchor into your body a little more, now the idea, the thought process around an awakening is, and you're sucking up all this information. You're reading, maybe you're reading about star seeds. Maybe you're reading about star family. Maybe we're reading about all the alien stuff. Maybe we're reading about Buddhism. Maybe we're reading about Christianity. Whatever it may be, Native American traditions, whatever it may be, we are now reading and sucking up the information, which is a beautiful part of the process of the awakening. But it isn't the awakening. It's just a process. It's just a part of it. Yes? Important to know that just because I read a book or because I know something, if I haven't been able to implement it into my life, the awakening is still kind of waiting. It's still hanging out around the corner. So we want to come back home. So this is the next part, right? We have a mental understanding what an awakening might look like or feel like. Then we start moving into more of an experience of the now. And this is where meditation becomes more of a reality for you. It begins to become a little bit easier to meditate. It becomes a little more comfortable to be in a state of meditation. And so if you start to meditate And this is in my book, it's one of the prerequisites for a spiritual awakening. But of course, I have no monopoly on this. It's just my experience. My experience is if we meditate every day, it becomes easier to visit spirit, the realm of spirit, or your higher self, or your inner stillness, or your inner peace. And if we don't meditate, it's really easy for our minds to come back in and begin to run the show again, thinking that I'm in charge of my life. Or vice versa, I'm a victim of all circumstances. So as we start to then meditate every day, it becomes a little easier. You become a little more familiar with your inner territory. And meditation, once you have had your experience with the stillness, with the absolute now, the now point, right here, right now. Once you've had that experience, your mind knows that there is a level beyond thoughts that is a vast realm of stillness. It is like if you're on the ocean and it's a storm on the ocean, your thoughts are the storm, right? Is the storm. And then suddenly you dive down into the silence of the depths. And it goes woof. And that is a felt experience throughout your whole body. When you have your samadhi experience, your body goes, whoa, I'm at home. Your nerves relax. Your body relaxes. You can feel at peace in the moment. Whatever was the big problem, the big trauma in the mind that keeps running, suddenly releases. And suddenly we're at home in ourselves. This is where we have now meditation becomes easier. And now we understand why meditation is so important. The daily practice is because we come back home, we find our peace, we anchor into that stillness, and then we go out and face life. And this is sort of, in my experience, that's the middle part of our awakening process. As we have also gone into the meditation part, at this point, you may already have seen that you have trauma in your life. You may already have seen you have patterns in your life. But now, when we're sitting in meditation, it becomes a lot easier to see through our own ego messaging. So when we are still only reading books or kind of having awakening as a thought process, it's very easy for the ego to stay in charge. But once we start to meditate, it's a little trickier. The ego will still be hiding, your shadow will still be hiding, but it's a little trickier. Like you can start to see through things. You can start to go, oh, was I just lying to myself? Oh, was that not real? Did I just say something, or was I just, whatever it may be that you're doing that is part of your old self. So then in this process of inner understanding, because as we meditate, we grow in inner understanding, we start to soften. And this is, in my experience, is where I started finding that there's trauma hiding in my system. I knew it before, but I didn't know the level of it. I didn't know the depths of it. And as I went deeper on the healing journey, I ended up learning Reiki, and then I learned the shamanic traditions from my shaman teacher. The depths that came up were pretty much unfathomable, where I went from having the awakening into the stillness of the body into actually finding where in my system is my trauma hiding? Where are there contractions that are keeping my life force energy from flowing? Where are they that keeps me protecting certain parts of my ego? And some of that trauma is very deep. Some of it is severe. But a lot of it is also some stuff we can reach into, and we can we both have to soften towards the trauma, and we also have to start to see it. Yes. Breathe space into it. Breathing space into it so that it can move. Because your body knows how to heal itself. Once we are into the body knows how to heal itself. But we have to bring the light of our awareness to it. And we do this in a soft way. We don't do it in this left-brained, toxic masculine kind of way where I'm going to fix myself. I am going to do it. This is how we do it. We don't, that doesn't work, right? Because now we're attacking the problem with the same energy that created the problem or that has been holding the problem in place. So when we soften, it's like coming into the divine feminine. It's more of a feminine process, and it's more of a, it's an out breath. There's a dance to the out breath, and it's a beautiful, beautiful process. So we went from being in the mind only into having experiences of the stillness of your inner self. But even that stillness, if it's only practiced in meditation, and then we go out and live our lives the regular way without changing our lives, now we're meditating in the morning, maybe at night, but it's often a struggle, and we don't make any real changes. Well, we're still not going to be that comfortable. And then we move into more of an emotional, oh goodness, I have to begin to practice what I'm learning. I have to sit with my meditation, and I have to bring it into my day-to-day life. I want to see what can happen to everything if I bring my spiritual practice with me. And as we start to learn that, then your traumas aren't being triggered all the time. By now, in my case, I had a lot of trauma around the nightlife, around bar life, around being out and about. And it's not that bar life itself is bad, but for me, it was very triggering. So on one level, I've been sitting with all that trauma and all the triggers. And on another level, I've also been like, yeah, but do I need to be in that environment? Do I need to sit in that environment, be a part of it? Of course, I don't have to. I can choose. So then my life has completely shifted, stepping away from things that ordinarily was deemed normal. Now I'm like in a space where my life has become much more spiritually centered. And it's been a beautiful process. So we are now embodying the spiritual process. We are growing in understanding. We are growing roots into Earth Mother. And as we do that, we become more anchored. We become more solid inside of ourselves. We also start to feel all the different elements. Father Sky, we start to connect with different Apus. These are the big beings of our planet, big mountains, big lakes, big oceans. And of course, not everybody has to walk down a shamanic path, but as you grow in your inner understanding, it becomes more like a shamanic path. It becomes much more like a spiritual walk. And this is, at least in my experience, where this spiritual awakening, this experiencing, it gets very deep when we go to the deeper places. It's very, very deep. And our understanding of our world changes. Our viewpoint of our world changes. Along the journey, I would like to recommend too, though, to be mindful. It's very easy for our ego to create new attachments. It's easy to it's easy to get too attached into new things. So along the journey, if we fall into the conspiracy theories, which of course I am completely supporting them, I'm completely behind many of them, but I'm not attached to them. Because I know that when we attach to a new idea, almost like if you're a born-again Christian, you're a born-again Buddhist, you're a born-again something, that becomes your whole truth. And suddenly, your ego has now attached to something new. And this is that trap along the awakening process where we end up attaching to new things. And now we are, all love and light, even though we have a lot of anger inside. I'm all love and light, but don't mess with me. It's really easy to get into those places, right? And it's part of the awakening process. But as we keep going, let's be mindful. Let's be aware that that is also a manifestation of the ego. Yeah? not always a conscious one from our side. So it's a journey. It's a journey going from mind into a deeper understanding, having stillness of mind, then going into the body, then healing the trauma in the system, and then growing roots into our planet, into our life, and becoming more familiar with life force energy. So you can feel it flowing in your body, becoming more at home in your system, becoming more accustomed or aware that you have life force energy flowing through you all the time. And as we become more, we're into body. Always body, never mind. We go into body more because that's where the awareness of life force energy lies. It doesn't really lie in the mind, where the mind goes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to create this, I'm going to force this to happen. Well, if it's not in alignment with our body energy or what life force energy wants, we can try and do that as much as we want. It's not going to happen. So this is where why body, in my world, body becomes more important than mind. And it's not that it's all good or bad. Mind isn't bad in itself. We just can't overdo mind. And our whole Western mindset and paradigm is mind only. This is how we were able to ruin the world, how we're able to pollute and destroy and ravage the way we do. Because we're not connected to nature. We're not connected to Earth Mother. We're not connected to our own bodies. We do everything we can to manipulate our own bodies. With everything. Coffee, nootropics, vitamins, hormones, medication, everything to manipulate our own bodies that are already perfect the way they were. But that's not how the Western paradigm is, right? So it's easy to get lost in that. This is why reconnecting to nature is very important. And it's a beautiful journey. The awakening process is beautiful. And every step we make is going to feel great. And then every time we fall off or fall back, it feels horrible. And then we come back on track, which is just how we learn. That's just a normal process of life. But it is about growing in understanding, both in understanding of our world and the understanding of how we work. And we get to know God, right? We get to know God because we are God in ourselves. In the depth of our being, life force energy is God. We are connected to it. So the final, last step of our awakening is to become aware, both that we are God and that love is life force energy. That love, when they say love makes the world go around, it is because it really does. Love is the answer. Our minds have gotten lost from that answer, but it is the answer. And yes, there are many layers of reality, and there are many, many dimensions going on. And one is not more true than another one. All right, so, beloved, thank you for watching. I hope this could support you on your awakening process and on the journey, because we go deeper all the time, and we're going to keep going deeper, yes? It just, because we become part of life flow. So thank you for watching this. Click like and subscribe if this spoke to you, and I will see you again soon. Have a happy, happy Friday, happy weekend. Namaste and aho.